Oh, oops. I didn't mean to go live just then. I was going to try to take another photograph because the light is shining brightly upon me this morning. And I wasn't even going to go live today. I wasn't going to share it all. I just was going to have like a super gooey, awesome day off. But then I got all supercharged. And I wanted to share about the new age because this has been coming up for me a little bit over probably the last few years since endeavoring talking about spirituality and all this kind of stuff, where so often people are like, ugh, new age bullshit. Ugh. Like, stop talking, woman. Stop talking about love like it's some fucking thing. It's all just new age bullshit. And I'm like, suddenly I'm aware. So in feminist theory, when you study women's studies, there's an expression called the backlash, which is like, you can imagine the wake, like, so you're the backlash, which is like, you can imagine the wake, like, so you're pioneering this new thing and there's gonna be a wake, there's gonna be a backlash, and actually that's an expression in firefighting terms where you'll often feel the heat and like, it will suck the fire back and then push it forward. I'm not explaining it very well, but basically it's really just resistance, it's judgment, it's fear, it's like a pushing against a wave of change. And I used to do that. Like, so when I was still in old paradigm, I used to be like, psh, self-love. Psh. Like feminism, blah, blah, blah. Like when it was like me rejecting myself. And so I was part of the backlash. I was like, shh, don't talk about that, or that's annoying, or that's new age, or like, oh yeah, love and light, it's so powerful. And then I basically just got so fed up with my own victimhood and my own suffering that I finally, in earnest, started practicing this stuff. And like, lo and behold, oh shit, it really works. It really works to sit and feel all your density and to move through it, and it really works to reprogram your mind. It just requires a lot of discipline, and more discipline than probably most of us are trained, because we're so heavily programmed to resist the change, right? So recognize, and this is something in my personal experience, you guys know if you've tuned into some of my rants that I've actually now deleted, but like this is something that I've definitely hit up against with male dominance and male arrogance, are like just literal, these are the situations that manifest where after a day or two, like I'll be hosting or doing something in a professional setting and then they call me honey, or suddenly like by day 2 they're like, oh, that's great, darling. And I right away I feel like that's diminutive. Like, you're saying those, you're choosing to say those words because it makes you feel better, because it's like putting me down, basically. It's like putting me on this like objective level, right? Like, darling, she's just a darling and a sweetheart, and what she's talking about is new age gunk, not the real world that I belong to, right? And like, the truth is, these are like old paradigm constructs. These are usually men of a certain age who are feeling in their privilege and right to call me whatever they like, be it baby, darling, honey, or sweetheart, even though I'm not their pet. You know, I'm actually in a professional setting, but they somehow call me like that kind of thing. So I'm addressing that as part of new age backlash. So the level, anytime there's like a rising movement, there's gonna be backlash. There's gonna be people who ridicule, mock it, defame it. And again, part of it, I do talk about this in the Fearless Life Guide, but when we really start to own our power and stand in our truth and shine our light, it triggers people's unworthiness. It makes people feel bad. It makes people question their reality. And we all know that when we start to go through these awakenings, everything gets really fucked up. So literally all of our ego games, all of our dark agendas, all of our blah, 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 blah start to get exposed. And let's be honest, it's uncomfortable. And nobody who's built their lives around the ego and the old paradigm and the patriarchy, nobody wants to kind of have to break down. Nobody, because that's bad, because having a therapist is awful, because being vulnerable is like the worst thing that you can do in that paradigm, right? But you guys tuning in here, we're living a new paradigm, which is a radically different from the old and very almost like reversed, right? So being vulnerable, being exposed And here I'm just sharing that don't worry if you get backlash. Don't worry if you, by standing in your truth and power, people suddenly go, ugh, you're so annoying, or, oh, that's just new age bullshit. And I'm like, okay, that's like, I'm trying to think of an example of how that is like, you know, taking a really, it's like some scientific discovery, right? That when we first discovered it and people are like, oh yeah, okay, I'm not finding it, right? I'm not finding this great example. But throughout history, we know that that's a very relevant truth, is that humanity often fears new stuff or like, yeah, rejects it. But then suddenly it's quite relevant to our expansion and our truth and our growth. And eventually more and more people hook into it. And then it becomes the dominant perspective. So right now we're undergoing a global shift. So part of our historical contextual framework is that pockets of humanity, so we can see around us in what we study in history, is that evolution presents itself as a continual revolution, right? Revolution after revolution after revolution is our evolution. And the only difference here, now those of us here, we've been pioneering this energy stream pretty much since we came to Earth. And we've had a whole bunch of different like deaths and da-da-da-da-da. Yeah, right? Same. And the difference that we're in now, so those of us who are really speaking out now are here because we've known intuitively of this great shift, of this great awakening, of this paradigm shift. And the difference is that no longer is this shift localized to America or Asia or like specific. This is a global paradigm shift, which means all over the world, a whole bunch of humans are waking up from within themselves and choosing a different perspective. That perspective is more holistic. That perspective is more supported from a place of heart and connectivity rather than the other. And so when there are great sweeping changes, we would often demonize it, reject it, want to kill it, want to get rid of it, want to stamp it out. But this is not the trajectory we're on any longer. Now we really are stepping into the new age. We really are stepping into new earth. Those of us living it are living in new paradigm reality, right? And we're just sort of expressing, guys, it's badass. It's a very different way of experiencing this reality. It's pretty relentless, but at the same time, the rewards are monumental. The reward of feeling alive, the reward of feeling free, the reward of feeling like an empowered, integrated human being is just monumental. And at the same time, keeping those structures in place to keep our egos in check, to keep us grounded, to keep us in a state of love and presence with one another, right? That compassion is mega, mega important. One of you guys mentioned about, like, I said economic collapse. Now, this has been on my radar since my awakenings, actually, like since 2001 and the Twin Towers. And like, I've had different interactions with the global financial system, which has told me again, like, my inner knowing about it is actually very, very true. We are more powerful than the economy, and yet we've given it so much of our power. So a big part of our transforming our emotional densities is actually disentangling our entanglement with the global financial system. Now, as we awaken and embody more of our truth and more of our knowing and more of our power, those energetic threads which support the system are being pulled out from underneath of it. So in my vibrational awareness, I was at UBC studying women's studies when 9/11 happened. So in my awareness, the economy as the structure we know it as, so vibrationally inside my intuition, what I've known is that the pegs, like Jenga kind of thing or something, the pegs have been being pulled out underneath this economic structure because it was never firmly planted in the you could say the sacred geometric vibrational signature of planet Earth. The economy that we taught is, i.e. that 3D reality, is not embedded here. It's not the truth of Earth. It's a construct that was created, you could say, maybe for evolution or maybe for progress or maybe for some dark agenda. Who knows? It doesn't really matter because it is done. Like, as in that and again, people, depending on where you're at, this is like, what are you talking about? I went to the bank yesterday. So did I. But the pull and the power construct of that world economy is dying. So again, I can only talk to you about what I'm intuitively feeling and sensing and have done for years, again, since my awakenings back in 2001, is that because it's not a solid structure, it's inherently corrupted false perception and an imbalanced perception of a disempowered human collective, that it was never, like, the pillars were never, the foundation wasn't put in properly, right? The foundation was never anchored, grounded, and supported. So inevitably, this energy stream was going to collapse. You keep building on an imbalanced structure, what happens? It all falls apart. So this is what we're witnessing. As more and more beings awaken, we're witnessing this unraveling of the old paradigm, you know, construct of our perception, and we're birthing a new one from our own heart space and are living in these bodies and being like, oh my God, I'm alive. Holy shit, what is this world? And like, we're literally recreating it from within our own heart connectivity in a recognition of our unity and our oneness on this planet, of a desire to go to a different level of creation, which looks better and feels better and is more harmonious. And well done us for surviving the dark ages and the fallen state and the separation and the fear. And well done us for having seen it and witnessed it and been able to transform it and move through it, right? It's fucking epic. And right now, certainly a company like Alta Love that I'm pioneering, we're now pillaring down. Our foundation is anchoring into the earth to help expand and build new structures and systems that support the whole. So there's a lot of companies like me and Alta Love who are pioneering that. And the truth of the PUD is that we are expanding, is that the way Alta Love is expanding my own awareness and how different people, Katie, Francis, these people are now surrounding and anchoring in the foundations of the alignment business that I feel wants to be born into this new paradigm, having been a being guided from 2001, having these awakenings, knowing that there's the new paradigm or a paradigm shift. And all these years later, 16, 17 years later, I'm like, whew, fuck, this is it. We're here. We're here. We're here! And I'll just keep sharing, you guys. If you want to know anything more about backlash energy or economic collapse, it's still all an aspect of our own consciousness. And yet, if anything, the paradox is that when we start feeling that backlash, boom, it's on. Like, if we can honor and trust in our safety and protection when it comes to our fluid flow of abundance, then the collapse shouldn't trigger any fear in us. If it does trigger fear, you can reach out and connect into a space of loving benevolence and remind yourself of who you truly are, because the truth of who we are isn't actually connected to this economy. That's all part of the illusion, right? And the more we anchor into our truth, the more, again, we kind of rip out those threads that are keeping it in that dominant place, right? Because we all belong here. We're all meant to be here. We're meant to enjoy this place, and we're allowed to enjoy it. But there needs to be a little bit of restructuring, because part of that pleasure seeking has been in a kind of disconnected state. So now we want to integrate all of that disconnection, some people call it shadow or whatever, and move into a more holistic place. Exactly. This is like the purity of the Fearless Life Guide, right? The book is pretty much just teaching people that. So meditation, mindfulness help us to ground and anchor, so that when we get triggered energetically, it's really like, and often I see people do this, they just kind of like, they like push down the emotion with positive thought, or just like speed it through. And I'm like, no. Emotional depth and clearing requires you just to sit and be with the waves. That's why I talk about trigger, waves, and storms. Is that if we really allow a trigger to be there and detach from the thought form and let the energy, that's why I call it the karmic backlog. Because often you're like, I'm just feeling a little anger. Yeah, sit with that fucking anger. And then you feel the waves of rage, like heat coming through. But then usually in my experience, after anger, there's like, there's like some trauma wound that comes out, and then after that there's like more wounding, and then after that there's suddenly like these memories and experiences, and then after that peace, compassion, love, wholeness. I'm like, oh my goodness, we have so much energetic layers that we want to get used to sitting with and being with. And then in my experience, it's really only through shifting that emotional density or trauma that we truly have access to inspirational thought in alignment with our whole, right? If we're just trying to be like, I'm super happy, I'm positive thinking, you're not clearing anything. And that's, as an empath, that's my gift to people, basically, is sitting with people and being like, I can feel it. And I don't often have to sit with people during the storm. They can often do it on their own, but like, it's honoring the fact that there's anxiety there, that there's a wound there, there's an energetic density there, and then ushering, encouraging people to sit through it. So hey, Kurt Mel, I did just see you there. Hey bud. This share is a little bit more in depth about the economic collapse. I'm not sure if you were there when I was talking about it, but I think it was you, Kurt, wasn't it, who said on the last video, like, oh, you mentioned economic collapse and then got distracted. So I wanted to address that in this one. And it basically just means, like, in my intuition, basically, it's already done. Like, that old structure of the economy is actually, like, dead or fully dying, right? And how we feel into that vibrationally is that it was never secure. It was never founded in, like, integrity for the human collective. It was kind of founded based in false perception to corrupt and control. So however we perceive that is fine, but from this perspective of the paradigm shift, it's done. Hence, part of why we're all kind of expanding and reaching out is that so for me, I'm holding like an energetic dome around myself and my community, and I guess like the light workers or whatever that are part of that zone, part of this tribe. And then so those of us holding these kind of big light domes in the pockets of the planet that we're stationed, these domes are now linking, other domes are linking around the world. Now, because this light frequency, this higher dimensional frequency is anchoring into the earth, you can imagine that is uprooting the old energy grids. So those old energy grids are vacating, are leaving, are dying, are crumbling, are collapsing, right? Because they were never secure enough to take us through this next phase, right? So we can continue this conversation. I hope that was somehow useful to you, maybe even a little entertaining. I don't know, you guys. But capitalism and consumer is that for us to end it and let it die, for a new paradigm to grow its ashes, for us to comprehend how and why it was formed and how and why it doesn't work. Yeah, I agree, and I enjoy having these kinds of conversations because I sometimes feel like I have quite a clear perception of it, of how and why it's come to be. And again, non-resistance. It's not about fighting the system. It's not about, like, money is evil and bad and blah, or the economy is fucked up. No. It's all been part of an integral divine creation. But as an energetic system of operation, it could only take us so far. Right? And now we can see that if we keep not letting it die, it's literally gonna fucking destroy us. So that's part of an organism waking up and evolving, right? Interesting, truth, kindness, kind of. Exactly. So Kurt Mail, yes. So this is it. We're just sharing. And then through these energetic exchanges, we literally are in the invisible systematizing the new way of exchanging, where we're not doing the power over divide and conquer form of exchange. We're unifying our integral creatorship status and then learning how to operate from those higher levels. That us focusing on this new paradigm is one in the same of the old dying. And this again might sound weird, probably not, but I've actually had emotional storms where I can feel that I'm mourning the loss of like I'm mourning the death of the old paradigm, you could say. Like I'm like feeling that I'm crying and letting go of, like, oh my God, it's over. Like, we have to let it go. It's dead. It's dying. It's crumbling around us. And even though a lot of it is really fucked up and scary, oh, see, thank you. Thank you for that reflection. I've had those insights, and even though it's scary, it's still the world we grew up in. It's still the world we were taught to believe in. It's still part of what we attach to pleasure and benevolence and having stuff and having all this like consumerist, blah, blah, blah. We have to let it go. And like literally, it makes me want to cry right here, right now. We have to let it go and be real with one another. It formed me for the last 2 decades. Yeah. Right? Exactly. That's a true recognition, right? We are one with it, and yet we have to let it die. We have to clean ourselves up and not be so blinded by the material world. We have to learn how to love ourselves again so that we can love one another, so that we can love this planet, because she's asking for that. And she's kind of saying, stop fucking raping me, please. Like, you're gonna destroy yourselves. You don't want to do this. And then we don't. And that's part of that tunneling suffering that's like explosively waking people up. Be like, guys. We have to pioneer a new world. One that isn't based on greed and corruption, divide and conquer, control, domination. And it is us. No one's to blame externally necessarily, but we have to integrate and embody the new, which is us just being a bit more real about who we are and what we feel and what we think. And this is just the platform for me to do that with you guys, to be like, this is where I'm thinking today, this is where I'm vibing today. And I'm a total loner. I'm more and more like super choosy about the energies I engage with. I'm pretty much just in my own heart space and head space, filtering and feeling energy. And I don't even know how I've come to be this way. I literally engage with external information like minute. I know, it's quite difficult bumping up against people who are still holding on. Yeah, and here is another reflection. Just be responsible for you. What I'm getting intuitively as well is like, and just in my practical reality, is like, it's more and more difficult for us to be around the density. So the more clearing we do, the more, and it's like coming from such compassion, but it's painful. It hurts to be around people that are holding on because we've let go. And then what we feel is the density of that attachment to this dying system, right? And hence that continual us being able to sit with the feeling, sit with it. So truth, kindness, back to what you're saying, it literally is that. So part of it is why meditation is really working. Hey, clear vibration. Clear vibration is across the nation. So truth, kindness, this is why meditation helps. So like as a daily, sometimes twice daily, multiple times throughout the day, I just sit and meditate and I feel and I breathe. Now, part of the discipline of meditation is that what it allows us to do. So say I'm in a situation, someone says something and I'm like, or like, this is usually stuff that happens more in our intimate relationships, our family, our romantic relationships, stuff that trigger us pretty fucking deep. And our mental conditioning wants us to blame the external world. So-and-so did this to me. This is why I'm feeling this way. The world is a big fucked up place. That's why I'm fucking angry. No, this is where the deeper energy work really comes in, is that there's a trigger. So something hits you and it triggers a reactive response, right? It triggers that anger. It triggers that jealousy, that resentment. Now, old paradigm would have us true. As in, old paradigm says that is true and we are all divided, we're all against each other. New paradigm says we are one. Therefore, if somebody's triggering emotional reaction, I have the ability to go, what is this? What is this feeling? So, and this is like the big piece. Notice what you're thinking when you're feeling anger. Fucking boo boo boo, or like your mind is literally attacking the world and keeping your healing separate from you. So when you can notice how shitty those thought projections are when you're feeling anger, you can breathe. And this is the point of power and where it's mega challenging. Heat, anger is usually heat, rage, tightness, fire, burning, you know? And if I can just let go of those thoughts are not true. I'm not going to perpetuate that feeling. Morning, Nestor! I'm not going to perpetuate the feeling. I'm just going to sit with it. There again, go back in this video, I talk about the same thing. So if I'm just sitting there, breathing, really practicing not going into those negative thought patterns, eventually that anger will shape shift inside. I reference here because I usually feel anger right there. Conscious breathing is the juice of life. Meditation, conscious breathing is what helps us just sit with those triggers, right? And clear vibration, one thing that I'm really getting for a lot of us is to remember there's a collective energy shift, humongous, right? So sometimes when we're getting triggered, it's because we're literally having to absorb a whole bunch of density from the collective energies that are around us. So remember, it's not just you. You're not just having to perpetually clear karma and clear your own density. There is a collective thing happening here. Haha. Right? So sitting and complaining doesn't do anything unless it's part of an inner work. Exactly. That's the point. All we can do is just like purge, right? Just clear it out. And so truth, kindness, the loop here is that you're going to be having breakthroughs when you can sit with anger, let the anger turn into a different emotion. So in my experience, anger is pretty surface level. Jealousy, vengeance, those are pretty surface, and they're always born out of a wound, a deeper wound of unworthiness and separation construct. So all we're doing is literally breathing through anger until, like, usually there's another wave, either clarity, insight, and or sadness, pain, trauma, intuitive, like. And then literally, when it comes to anger, way back in the day, I remember penetrating right down into shame and guilt. And my God, I had to sit with some sticky fucking tar-like energy for about 4 or 5 days. Just like, just being like, oh, God. But like, again, thank God, intuition just knew I was like letting go and shedding like ages and ages of sticky shame. Shame and guilt is like literally the darkest shit ever. Do you feel it's trying to move into a new paradigm versus not? I'm just curious about your perception. Yeah. And so anger, yeah, you just sit through the anger, breathe through it, and then usually different insights come. By the time you're clearing and like, by the time you're really releasing, yay! Like most of us energy workers would understand that. Like by the time I'm actually crying and like the waves are fully moving through me, I'm like, oh my God, here it comes. I'm letting it go. I'm letting it go, everybody, right? And I had to go into the forest to scream. Yeah, screaming, releasing. And there's a lot, and this clear vibrations, this is what I'm getting intuitively. This is the one and the same as the dying like the old is collapsing, the old paradigm is falling away because we're literally like digging into our truth and power and being like, you are not going to, like enough. Hold on, I have to go back and just answer that one last question, Kurt, that you asked about in terms of percentages. Okay, so percentage is difficult, but what I'm feeling into are like sort of 3 brackets. And like the awakened forebearers, the leading the way the whole time, those of us sort of like ushering this next wave who've probably been doing energy work, conscious and unconscious, for the last 10, 20 decades, really. And then right now we have like the next, so I would say what I'm getting is that there's probably only like 10% of the dark energy here. I know this might sound totally weird, but I'm only getting a very small percentage of dark, sticky energy, like desperately trying to hold on to control, just be like, fuck! Ah! And then it's so unstable that lids are just being popping off everywhere and people are rising really, really rather quickly. So the forebearers are tiny percentage, like just a couple percentage. And then you have the next maybe 25% of us here really like moving it forward, stepping into the new, living the new, clearing and healing, understanding energy and da-da-da-da. And then you have like this 70% people getting ready to blow. 70, maybe less, 50 to 60 to 70% of humanity that's just getting ready to fucking wake up and go, whoa, which is why we're having to dig in and ground down, because we're going to have to be ready for this next flux of energy flow coming into our reality. It's part of our knowing manifestation forever. And yet as it starts to actually manifest, we're going to have to be like, right? Vocal dark minority, I guess. Yeah, dark minority. But again, because they've been in the power, we can feel the depth and domination of their power, right? You're welcome. Thanks for being here, basically. So yeah, the masses are getting ready to blow. So we've got a good chunk of the mass about ready to blow. And then the dark will just dissipate because the light's just shining so much everywhere. Yeah. So, and actually now, Kurt, you're helping me see a different insight about this. It's the polarity. It makes perfect sense. The polarity, these 5 or 10% light energies and 5-10% dark energies are literally like at war, being like, who blew up? But we, the light generation, the light brigade, we know that the light's more powerful because we've already been through the dark. That's like the thing about the light and the omniscience of your true potentiality is that we all actually enfold the darkness. We know the darkness because we've been through it. And yet the darkness is still at war with itself, you know, because it can't see. It can't see its broader potentiality, so it has to war around, but the light is already knowing, and so it just like wraps. It's how I feel, and that's why we can actually mourn the death of the system, is that we're like, oh, my own creation is now falling into recycle itself into something new. But that's why we're aware of the Earth Akashic records and all of that kind of shit, right? We're aware of being the container. We're aware on some weird fucking level of all of the other infinite awarenesses, and so the more deep we go, the less frightened we are endeavoring this battle or whatever. Oh my god, you guys, all of you guys are here this morning. I am so thankful for you. I didn't meditate this morning, but I really appreciate some of your guys' feedback about me doing a bit of a meditation before doing a talk. So I feel like I want to focus more on doing some guided meditations with us, and then feedbacking off of your guys's. So the last 2 shares have been kind of based on your guys's like comments, and doing that. We are all in duality of light and dark that is within. Yeah, well, it's all within, right? That's like the weird paradox of all the teachings. I'm like, it's only ever within ourselves. It's only ever the darkness and the fear and the shadow and the shit that we're having to own within ourselves, and we can keep owning it and transforming it, and then the apparent darkness of the externalized world that we all live in disappears. So we're just in this weird phase of like going from we're jumping frequencies, and it's a hella unique and wild experience in these bodies, informed through going through a reality that you once thought was outside of you, to then living your own dream state reality from the higher imagination. It's just so wild. And those of us who keep meeting here, the reason we're here, I think, is because we have to remind humanity that they don't have to be afraid, that if they just keep going, eventually they'll take a leap and be in the new, and then they won't be afraid of themselves anymore, and then they won't be in conflict, and then they won't be in fear of their own lightness. Because the weird paradox is that we're all in fear of our power, which is actually creating this dark monster outside of us until we awaken to the monster is us, and then integrate it and birth a better protection. So the war between the light and the dark, I don't see it as bad, I just see it as a dance. Exactly, me too. And I always have done since my early awakenings. The light and the dark is a dance, a flow. It's beautiful. Hence, as a being who can access the container. So that's the depth of our work, is that we go so deep inside that we realize like it's all held in this beautiful grace of benevolence. And so we don't even have to fear the dark. Like, we can play in the dark if we want to. Like, some of us, you guys, I don't know if you guys, but like I have some memories of like not using my power for necessarily like good stuff. So this time round, that's why we have to go into the darkness and face it and own it, is because it is us as well. But then when you penetrate through, then you burst out the other side and you're like, way, oh yeah, I remember this too. And I'm at a point in my human experience where I'm like, I just want to have a good time. I just want to have some fun with some people that get what I'm saying and don't have an agenda, right? Anyway, you guys, I'm loving you. Exactly, clear vibrations and a choice of what we want to experience. And like, I think that's how I'm going to end it. That's what I just said, right? Like, guys, want to have some fun? Have some dancing? Hawaii, clear vibrations. I'm glad you appeared in my awareness again. I still want to come visit you and meet you all in Hawaii, so I need to find the details for you. And oh, Kurt Mill, Hawaii, clear vibrations. I feel like you sent me an email, but I don't remember, perhaps. So anyway, I'm sure we'll keep tuning in if that's meant to really lock in and meant to be, yes, for the exposition. And then let's just keep the conversation going, all y'all beautiful. Email me, please. Email me again. Oh shit, I didn't get an email. ball sacks. Or leave a comment here, or molly@altalove.com. And oh, do I need to write it? Oh, ball sacks. MOLLY at all to love. And then that way I can join that retreat, because that's another big part of my intention, is like some self-care and some self-love. I want to go and have somebody just because, you know, a lot of us, that's been our work. It's just giving all the love and giving the love, and finally I'm like, oh, gotta give some back to me now. Molly at all to love, so ALLTO love, hot vibration across the nation, altalove.com. And that way, if you link in, email moi, and that way we'll be connected, and I can look at the Hawaii stuff and start to make plans to do it, because it might line up. I'm going to be visiting the west coast of Canada to see my sister and family early next year, and depending on how the manifestation is shape-shifting my reality, I might just hit up Hawaii when I'm on that side of the world, if that makes any sense at all. Where? Kurt Mill! Oh, well, this is fantastic. I feel like this is totally aligned in that case. Oh, wait, do you live in Canada? I go to Canada once a year, March 28th to April 1st. Clearretreats.com. Okay, perfect. Let me write that down. Clearretreats.com. March is a good time of year, actually, and that'll be my birthday, and we will just have launched the next one. That will be my 37th. Oh, yep, Canadian. Okay, like on the west coast, in Vancouver. So let's plan a meetup, you guys. Let's plan a meetup early next year. Clearretreats.com. March 28th. I'm turning 27 on April 5th. So I think treating myself to a glorious retreat in Hawaii would be divine bliss extraordinaire, and bring in this new world for me, massive, right? All right, cool, dude. Hey, everybody, take care of yourselves. Have an awesome day. I love you loads. I really appreciate you guys showing up like this, because it just makes my day for sure. I wasn't even gonna go live today, but hey ho. April 5th, 1982. Clear retreat, clear vibration. I'm gonna have a look and see how it all lines up. I can't wait, actually. You guys, and Kurt Mill, by the way, like, this is the legit. This is meeting up. This is why I do what I do. I'm all about the meetups online. This is legit. And because we have all these flows and life flow. The thing is with me as well, like, I'm really solitary. I really dig just like being all nestled in and cocooned in my own little reality. I'm just manifesting a little bit more sociability, because yeah, sometimes you just realize, like, you need to go hang out with people and do stuff as well, which I do, just in a very intimate way. Just a very kind of like tight little circle. And I'm right now, yeah, working on a bit more life balance, and finally opening my heart to, like, you guys know, right? All of that. Have a great day, you guys. Nice to see you, Mark, Hannah, as well, and everybody that was here and here all the time. I just love you so much. So much grace. This is why. Hey, John Beanie, nice to have you there. Exactly. I just feel it, clear vibrations. My mom spent a lot of time growing up. Her family would holiday on the different islands there, and I know from Indonesia, I know there's incredible energy. So I just have a feeling I mean, it is a beautiful place, and who wouldn't want to go on holiday? But, you know, the work. I'm being called intuitively. I must go there and spend some time in the sun and some lovely good people, and do some incredible stuff. So hopefully we'll see each other in Hawaii next year. But in the meantime, let's just keep kind of like talking and sharing and showing up for ourselves first, so that we can keep showing up for one another. I love you guys. Clear retreats. I'll look into that, and I look forward to just continuing the wild ride with all of you guys. Love, vibration across the nation. Vibrational hugs. Vibrational hugs. I love you guys. Take care. Have a jolly good day. Peace out, my lovers.